I read 10 books this August. Some of them are absolutely fantastic. A couple of them are beyond awful. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Harry's Book Cafe. August is coming to an end and autumn is literally just on our doorstep. I managed to read 10 books this month, which is quite an achievement considering that before August I was suffering from 2 years of reading slumps. And the reason for that is because I was doing my first YouTube channel with lots of travelings. So it's very difficult to actually have enough time to really digest what you read and to really sit down and enjoy a book properly. So for about a year and a half to 2 years time, I didn't really read that many. But because of the establishment of this new channel, Harry's Book Cafe, it really saved me from suffering more of that slump. I managed to read 10 books this month, which is not bad. At all. So I just wanted to use this opportunity, this video, to share what I thought about those 10 books. I made a ranking of them. So without further ado, let's dig in. So I want to start from the last place. At number 10 is The Cow. I've never heard of the writer. I've never heard about this particular title before, but whilst I was doing research for this video, for this channel rather, I come across the 10 most disturbing books that you can read, and this has come up again and again to be the most disgusting and the most disturbing. So that really got my interest piqued, because prior to the establishment of this channel, I never even heard of the genre called extreme horror. I know horror, Stephen King, but I never heard of extreme horror. So I was quite interested. So I picked up this book from Kindle Unlimited and I read it, and I'm not happy with this book at all. It's utter rubbish. The scenarios depicted in the book is utterly implausible. It will not happen in real life. It's about this guy who watched too many TV and he wants to be those glamour things that he sees in the TV, and therefore he finds a job in the slaughterhouse. And his mum is crazy and dirty, extremely disgusting beyond belief, and she frequently feeds him human feces to eat. I mean, come on. And there's descriptions of his job in the slaughterhouse, the disgusting things that he's seen people do to cows, the disgusting things that his mother do to him. The book wants to shock you, and there's no plot line to really shock you like a decent book. The only shock value existed in this book is by being disgusting. It's for the sake of being disgusting. There's nothing more. There's nearly no plot line. It's absolutely ridiculous. And in fact, it's the only book out of these 10 that I'm DNF. DNF stand for did not finish. So I read about 50 pages and I just returned it back to Amazon. It's utterly ridiculous. Do not recommend it. Don't waste your time. The number 9 place is The Alligator, which I've just done a designer's review, a designer corner review. It's absolutely beautiful packaging. In fact, I've got it here. So by Centerpit Press in America. I spent quite a lot of money for this particular title because I know nothing about this title, and I bought it because it's just so beautiful. If you haven't seen the designer corner video for this, I'll put it up here so you can have a look. It's a beautiful book physically. I'm going to do a in-depth video review of this particular book, so I'm not going to do too much here. I'm not going to dilute too much of what I thought about this particular book. Suffice to say that it is quite awful. It's about alligator, or the men hunting an alligator, hunting about this particular large alligator that's 20 foot long somewhere in Florida, Everglades National Park. The characters are absolutely ridiculous. They don't behave in a normal way. They either shout or scream. In fact, this is so according to my issue, this is a 333 pages long book. The writer, I kid you not, have used the verb scream, no less than 30 times. I kid you not, probably even more. It's utterly ridiculous. But anyway, I'm going to do an in-depth review of that book in a later date, and we can discuss just how awful that book is. So that's the bottom two. That's the two books I actually hate of what I read. The following 8, I don't hate them, but they are of different hierarchy. So at number 8 place is John Christian's The Client. I've done an in-depth review of that book, so you can check it out here. It's about a boy who discovered a body in his backyard, and follow that discovery, a series of really unfortunate events follows. The reason it occupies at number 8 place is because, again, the plot line has so much potential. However, the actual writing itself, the actual plot development, is just implausible. People don't behave the way that they should in reality, and that really kills the book. And not just for me, I think for a lot of many readers find the same beef about this particular book. At number 7 is Agatha Christie's classic, And Then There Were None. Many people love it. And I can see the reason behind it. It's not difficult to see why. It is such a classic book. It's been made into so many theatre plays and films, and it has inspired so many other similar plot lines. It's absolutely amazing book. The only reason that it occupies at number 7 is because personally I don't really like the writing style. I don't like the serendipities, the serendipities that keeps happening, the coincidences that just not realistic. But apart from that, it's a really interesting plotline. It's very original and it's quite creepy at times, and I like that. But as I said, it's just not for me. I prefer something that's a little bit more realistic. At number 6 is the Beekeepers. The Beekeeper of Aleppo. It is a book that I have wanted to read for quite a long time. It is a fantastic read. The characters are genuinely deserve our sympathy, and more importantly, deserve our empathy. So it's about this asylum seeker coming from Syria and the journey they have to undertake to get to the UK. Well worth a read, very educational, highly recommended. The next one is the first horror of the 10, and that's at number 5. That's the Stolen Tongues. In fact, I've done a in-depth review of this book already, but it hasn't been uploaded yet at this time when you watch this video. The reason that it's ranked in the middle is because it's really, really, really scary. It is well written as well. It is unusual for a horror book to be such a lyrical, composition-wise. The words used, the sentence used, is really, really well done. So it's a really well written book, and at the same time, it's really, really scary. I don't want to give too much plot away. You need to read this book if you like something that quite a scary plot. Definitely read this. I mean, I read quite a lot of horror, and this is the most terrifying book I have ever read, so highly recommended. As I said, I'll bring up the in-depth review very, very soon, so you can have a look at that one. And number 4 is The Rebel Christ. This book I've read before I started this particular YouTube channel. So it sounds like, it is a religious book, but it's also very, very political. So this is the only non-fiction that I managed to read this month. So this book is written by a American preacher, and he was motivated by the craziness that's currently unfolding in the American political world. So this book, it's all about what Christ told us or taught us. I'm not a Christian, so therefore I can only repeat, I can really parroting or paraphrasing what the book's essence it's all about. I can't really insert my own opinion because I'm horribly unqualified to do so. So this book, from the writer's viewpoint, it's all about Jesus Christ's teaching to us about being generous towards the poor, about being understanding to your neighbor, understanding of what's going on. It's very, very interesting. I mean, in particular, these books dive on the issues of the current vitriol surrounding the anti-abortion campaign in America, and also anti-LGBTQ community that's unfolding in the US. So it teaches, it really trying to interpret Jesus' teaching to us. Needless to say that he interprets that Jesus Christ was quite a rebel at his time. He preached poverty, he preached all the kindness and love, and that at the time was really, really forward thinking. And that makes quite a contrast to what the American conservative is using Christ as their icon, which the writer is completely disagree, because Jesus was a rebel. He was certainly not a conservative. So yeah, highly recommend that if you are into that sort of thing. So I read it for educational purpose because I don't know anything, well, I don't know much about Christianity, so I want to really enrich my knowledge. So that's why I read it. I would strongly recommend you to do so as well. It's quite an interesting concept. At number 3, it's The Bullet That Missed by Richard Osman. As I've done an in-depth review for this particular book, fantastically funny, all about the retired people trying to solve unsolved murders. Is incredible. It's very much a British sense of humor, and you giggle throughout the pages, and it's definitely well worth a read. At number 2 is the Ruin, and I think I've got it here. Again, I have done a in-depth review of this particular book. It's just haven't been uploaded yet, so you will see it as soon as it come up. Fantastic book. I absolutely love it. It's a horror. It's the second horror book I read in this month. What really sets it apart from The Stolen Tongue is that this one is much richer. The texture of the story is much more detailed. The relationships between the main characters are very intriguing, very delicate, very complicated, and you as a reader reading that relationship start to come apart bit by bit. It's a fantastic experience, and the writing is amazing. It's very lyrical, poetic almost. But yeah, so I highly recommend the Ruin. It's just amazing book. If you haven't tried it yet, please give it a try. At number 1, this is the book I literally just finished. Is The Yellowface by R F Kuang, and I again done a in-depth review of this particular book. It will be the next video after this one. It's about 2 friends. One of them died in a frank accident. They're both writers. The one who died is a successful one. The one who stayed alive was not very successful. But she managed to stolen her successful friend's manuscript and published under her own name, and all the storm that came up afterwards. The reason that it is number 1 is is fantastically written. The style of writing is phenomenal. It's succinct, it's to the point, it's very, very mature. The second reason is that the book is quite in-depth. So there are 2 levels of story unfolding here. The number 1 is what I just said about friends nicking the other one's manuscript. On a deeper level, the writer dives into a moral question of the cultural appropriation, whether or not that should be kept down or eliminated, and therefore censorship to certain people, or whether that should be allowed, and under what circumstances should that be allowed. It's very, very interesting book. it reads like a crime novel in the sense that you really are feeling nervous reading this book because you want to know whether she will be found out. And there are quite a few close calls, especially in the beginning of the book. Highly, highly recommended. And that's number one for the month. Okay, so that's the end of August. September is just around the corner. I will try to get a TBR list very, very quickly and upload as soon as I can. In the meantime, please do give a thumb up and subscribe. It really does help a new channel like mine with the YouTube algorithm. And also, I want this channel to be a community of book lovers. So please share your stories about what you have read this month and what are your thoughts on those books I have introduced. And let's keep this channel, keep it going. I don't want to experience that reading slump again. So this is the best way to motivate me and motivate all of us to keep reading and keep absorbing and to learn and to nourish our minds. Until next time, guys. Cheerio.